Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Paladin University. My name is Charles Owen, and today we're going to be talking about tracking your inventory with the new serialization feature. I'll be going through this webinar for about 25. This is kind of a little bit longer than normal, maybe 20 to 25 minutes long. We'll try to keep it limited. I just want to check and make sure if you can raise your hand if you can see my screen. Obviously, if you're raising your hand, you can hear me. So thank you, Alice, David, and several others. I appreciate it. We're jam-packed here. We got a full house today, a lot of interest in this particular topic, and I'm very excited to go through this with you. This is all in line with as we continue the theme of putting data to work for you. I will be addressing chat questions at the end of this presentation. I just want to get through it. I think there's a lot of slides, a lot of information to cover here. It's going to be great if you have any interest at all on serialization and tracking serial numbers. This is definitely the webinar for you. So as we get started, if you look at the slides, what we'll learn today is I'm going to talk a little bit about what product serialization is. Most of you probably already know it, but I'll just go over it just for you who are unfamiliar with it. We'll talk about some of the common scenarios when you'll use serialization, as well as how it works in Paladin. That's the most important thing here, right? Identifying serialized items, setting them up in the inventory, receiving serialized items, selling serialized items, managing the serial numbers in your inventory, as well as the multiple reports that you can produce from this information. And then lastly, we'll do a brief discussion of the multi-store serialized item transfers. So that is something that's very important that you're going to have to do with the multi-store solution when you transfer serialized items from one store to the other. To continue on, so what is product serialization? Simply, it's just a way that you can assign unique IDs or serial numbers to items, and then you can recall those items. The serial numbers are typically used for high-valued products, power equipment, chainsaws, appliances, lawn, driving mowers, those types of things. So, and in this case, we see a refrigerator, a lawnmower, and a chainsaw in this particular picture. So that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about being able to assign these serialized numbers at the time of purchase as well as at the time of sale. So what are the common scenarios? Well, I think managing warranty coverage is an important one. Right? Maintaining ownership records so you know who bought what when and who returned what. We also have more traceability from the supplier side. So if the supplier wants to see how many active items you have, whether you have them on flooring or whether you have them sold or where they're at anywhere in that particular event or status, you can see that, as well as enhanced accountability. So this way you can track individual items that are coming through, even if they're part of the same product code number as with other items in the inventory. So those are the different scenarios that would be good for serialized numbers. All right, so how does serialization work in Paladin? Well, it lets you maintain and track serial numbers. We put a lot of effort into this feature. There are 4 areas in which you can go into Paladin, different modules, and interact with serial numbers. One is on the PO received. Serial numbers are added when items are received. So when you're receiving items, it will request that you put serial numbers in if you've earmarked or identified an item as a serialized item. Number 2, invoice and quote area. When a serialized item is sold or returned, the cashier is required to specify that information before it can complete the transaction. In the inventory, a current list of in-stock serial numbers and a detailed report is always available. So we'll look at that in detail. And reports, of course, you can also view global reports of all your serialized products, which is really tremendous. It's just a nice information to have. All right, we'll continue with how serialization works in Paladin. There's a couple of things that I need to mention to you. Paladin has incorporated a lot of safeguards, put a lot of safeguards in place to maintain one serial number per serialized item in your inventory. We also prevent you from adding duplicate serial numbers to a specific product code number. Paladin also maintains a detailed serial number history for every serial number event, state and status change. So that's really powerful. We'll show you the reports and how this information is displayed. Paladin also tracks not only the serial number, but we also maintain the date it was received, the product was received, and the receiving cost, because every one of those riding mowers may have a different cost that are coming in. You need to track that. We do that as well. To continue on with identifying serial numbers in the inventory module. So in the inventory module, there's only one thing you have to do to turn on serialization for a product. And that is, there is a checkbox on the General tab in your inventory module which says serial number. If you check that box, that item will now require that a serial number be added when you're receiving it and a serial number be added when you're selling it. If you have items already in stock and you wanted to start the serialization process, you can do that. It'll just tell you that you need to populate the serial numbers for those, in this case, 30 that you have on hand already. And there's, we'll get through this a little bit later. We'll show you how to do that. Receiving items with serial numbers. On the purchase order module, in the PO module, when you're purchasing items, it will identify serialized items by showing you a serial number warning. That serial number warning is just simply the serial number spelled out in red. That just means that you need to satisfy those serial numbers, meaning you have to add those serial numbers to this product before you can actually receive this PO. Moving on to the next screen, to add serial numbers to that PO, you just simply right-click on the line item that you need to enter the serial numbers, and what will happen is it'll come up with a couple of different things. It says add serial number and find next serial number. So you can just right-click and then click on the add serial number, and what will happen is it'll pop up and say, all right, we need to add 3 serial numbers. So at this point, you can add those serial numbers. 1, 2, 3. When you are, as you add those serialized numbers, you see on top of the box, the pop-up box we have here with the blue arrow pointing to it, says add 3 serial numbers. As you add 1, it'll say add 2. As you add 2, it'll say add 1, and so on until it's completely satisfied, and you have all 3 serial numbers in there. Now, as you move to the next item, you'll see that once the serial numbers have been added on the PO, the serial number turns from red to black. That just means, that black label means it's been satisfied. It's got all the required serial numbers that you need to be able to bring in your PO. Now you have another level here, the third item down, the BTU portable AC, says you need to add 5 in there. So if you get interrupted during the time that you are receiving items and you need to step away, or let's say you need to go and find some more serial numbers to put in, you can exit that PO module. Once you go back in, what it'll do is it'll maintain those that you've already input. In this case, it's already received 3 of the 10 that have been received. We have 7 more to go. Actually, on the add serial numbers, we actually need 6 more to add because we've got 1 already in play. So it will maintain this for you. You can, like I said, you can save it and come back to it later to add the rest of the serial numbers, and it's going to keep those items that you've already received in there. Now, if you do try to receive your PO without finalizing and satisfying all the serial numbers, it will come up with a warning box. The warning box simply says the serial number must be entered for every serialized item received. So it'll take you right back to the item that needs to be satisfied or needs to have the serial number entered. Selling items with serial numbers in the invoice and quote module. So this is on the selling side. At the time that you're selling, if an item is marked as a serialized item, what will happen is it'll automatically pop up with a box of available serial numbers. All the cashier has to do is select the serial number that corresponds to the item that they're selling, and it will go ahead and accept that. Now, if there's more than 1, they can accept more than 1. Now, let's say that you don't have a serial number, or the serial number that's on the item that you're selling is not in the system. That's fine. You can add it ad hoc right here, and you just need a manager's password to add a new serial number to a product. So if you're migrating to the serialized feature and you haven't bothered or haven't had time to put serial numbers in your inventory, that's okay. But it will still at point of sale request that you put in a serial number that matches that item being sold. In this case, it just requires a manager approval. Once you do put the serial numbers in the invoice and quote module, it'll actually show this to you, and it will maintain this on the invoice. So it shows you the serial number, the first two serial numbers for the top, of course the bottom, just like it is on the PO. The red serial number warning indicates that the item does not have the required number of serial numbers. So you would just right-click on that as you would in the PO. When you right-click, you're going to get a whole slew of items and choices and features that you can use and select from. Towards the bottom, we have Add Serial Number and Finding Next Serial Number as well. So these are the tools that you can use to go ahead and add those serial numbers. If you do try to sell the transaction without fulfilling the serial number or entering that serial number, again, the same warning box is going to pop up saying the serial number must be entered for every serialized item sold, meaning you just need to put in a serial number. That's because those are the rules that are in play for that particular item, since it is a serialized item. Continuing on, if we look at the receipt, as I mentioned before, the serial number will be listed below the actual product code in the product that you're selling, right on the receipt. So the receipt can, it's held by the customer. They can see clearly that what the serial number is that they purchased, and when you're making returns, it's very simple to do. When a customer does return a serialized item, it will prompt you with the sold serial numbers, and you will pick from those numbers. And again, if those numbers aren't there, you can enter the serial number in, again, with manager approval. So managing an item's serial numbers in the inventory module. Here's where this is basically your dashboard, if you will, of all of the items that you have in inventory, or in serialized items you have in inventory. So you have the capability of going to a single item in the inventory module, and when you press the F6 button on the bottom, which will render your serial number window, alt part number and serial number, you would select the serial radial box, and it will display a list of all available serial numbers for that particular part. You can also access a detailed history of the serial numbers as well. You'll see to the right here it says View in Excel and History. Well, let's talk about that now. This next screen shows you, if you actually do click on the View in Excel, it'll give you that same information and push it over to an Excel spreadsheet. So it's nice and handy to have. You can generate a report, you can sort it, you can look at it, you can hand it to your procurement agent, whatever it is. You've got the information. All the information that was on the screen is now printed in Excel. To continue with that, if you press the History button on that same window versus the View in Excel, press the History, it will display all of the items regardless of whether they're available, sold, in process, or what have you. So what it does is every time a serialized item is touched, either in the PO or in the at the invoicing, it will indicate where it is in the process, what state it is in. It also has the date, the time, the employee that altered it or was working with it, the terminal they were on, the source, whether it be through a purchase order, a manual receive, or through an invoice. Gives you the invoice ID, the serial number, as well as the status, either sold, available, in process. So if you actually look at this item while somebody's buying it in the store, let's say they're up at the front counter purchasing an item, and the cashier puts that serial number in, it will mention it on this report as in progress. This invoice is in progress. Additionally, if it's on hold, it will also say this item is on hold. So it maintains exactly where that product is at all times, all the way from cradle to grave. Once that item was, first entered in the system, and then when it leaves the system, we maintain that. This information you can also view in Excel. On the window above here, the serial number history window, there is a view in Excel, and you can move this data to an Excel document. So now you have this information. Managing an item serial number. So if you are starting out with the new feature, and let's say you have, in this case, there's 38 on hand, you're going to add those serial numbers to it. Well, you don't have to. You can actually do it at checkout, but some point or another, you're going to have to add the serial numbers, either in the inventory or upon checkout. At your leisure, you can actually, you'll see an inventory. We'll put up a cautionary box, a little triangle with an exclamation point in it. It will show you that, hey, that somehow the serial numbers aren't matching up with how many you have on hand. This is really interesting, right? So let's say you have 38 on hand, but you have 39 serial numbers in there, or you might have 38 on hand and you only have 2 serial numbers in there. Either one of those scenarios, and it's going to tell you, hey, remove or add serial numbers to match the inventory numbers. To continue on, the serial number reporting. So this is kind of where it all comes to one big report if you want. Let's say you have 1,000 serialized items in your inventory and you want a report of all of those. You can get that report based on multiple criteria, either a range of part numbers, a range of departments, a range of classes or subclasses, the stereotypical things that we allow you to set in your search criteria. And then it can push this to an Excel file. So if you wanted to just see all your part numbers and the corresponding serial number for every item in your inventory, you can do it with this report. You just don't select any criteria, hit the Run Report button, and you're going to get an Excel spreadsheet of every item that you have in your inventory that's serialized. And of course, you can break this down by the part number or the alternate part number, by the description or serial number, the added date, received date, the cost. I mean, all that information is going to be maintained in this particular spreadsheet. Now, this particular spreadsheet goes much wider, but just for the sample of showing it on this PowerPoint, you've only got the first A through G columns, but there are some additional columns as well. All right, so I had mentioned that there were some criteria you can set. This is how you run this report, right? You'll see, and you probably will see this as soon as we activate the serialization feature. You'll see under the report area, you're going to go to inventory, general, and then serial number list. It will just be the last one, the newest one added to the list. And from there, you can run the different report criteria: part number, range, department, supplier, class, subclass, and location. So that is it for the information. As far as on the standard serialization piece, but on MultiStore, there's another added feature that we added. So if you're a store using our MultiStore feature, you're able to transfer items between stores as well as consolidate payments and accounts receivables and things like that. But in particular with the transfer feature, there's a couple of different ways you can choose to do transfers in Paladin if you're a MultiStore. Scenario one is you can create a PO and then transfers from one store to another. When you select and add that serial number or add that piece to receive it into your store, on the receiving store, you need to select one of the serial numbers from the store that you're taking the product from, and it'll show you a list of serial numbers, and you can just add it right here. You can also add it manually as well. The other piece is on the F7 transfer. So scenario number 2 is you use the F7 transfer feature. It's a button on the bottom of the inventory screen on the ribbon on the bottom. When you do this, it calls up all the different items and how many you have in each store. You can pick the store that you want to retrieve the item from, And when you do that, it's going to give you a list of available serial numbers, and at that point you can access and choose the serial number that you want. Now, let's say you chose it and then they sent you a different one. That's totally okay, because what you can do is you can actually change that as you receive your PO and as you add that to stock. You can actually change that serial number to another serial number coming from that store. And you can add it as well, as I mentioned before. And that is it on the additional feature for MultiStore on the serialization component. This webinar will be available at the portal.paladinpos.com/webinars link. You can get to it on the Paladin applications. Just go to Help, Webinars, and you'll find it there as well. If there are any questions, now are the time to ask those questions, and I'll look at that momentarily here and see what we've got. All right, so it says with EDI, so that's a very good question. EDI, electronic data interchange. We're wondering how this works with EDI. So on EDI, the information for the serialized components are not contained in most of the supplier EDI files. In that case, on this particular version of the product, we are able to give you where it requires that you add the serial numbers after you receive the EDI file. And that's how that would be handled. This, hopefully that was helpful. Any more questions? Any questions? Okay, can we quote an item without a serial number? Yes, you can. You can go ahead and create a quote, and I believe you can store a quote without a serial number. Walk through the process of entering customer information at point of sale. So customer information, you would just select the customer in the invoice and quote module, and anybody that has Paladin will know how to do that. You just either use the drop down, type in the customer's account number, name, or you can go to advanced lookup and look up their address and state, zip code, phone number, any of that information, and you'll be able to call up the customer. And then you can assign a particular serialized item to a customer that way. If it's a new customer, you can always add them via scanning the back of their driver's license. That's a really nice feature that we have. If you have a 2D scanner, you're able to just turn over their driver's license, scan the back of it, and you can enter a new customer into the system that way. How will the acceptance of the purchase order work when using EDI? Again, it will go ahead and receive all the items except for those items that require serial numbers. Those you will have to add, I believe, the stock on hand as well as the serial numbers after the fact. Will an item part of a kit act the same way as serialized? That's a good question, and I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that question. So you've successfully stumped the presenter. Thank you. That's totally fine. We'll get an answer, and if you are a customer and you want to call us, we'll get you an answer to that question. I have 2 serialized items, and when I go to add serial number, but it doesn't save it. Correct. If you're a Paladin customer and you're seeing the serialized pieces of the serialized feature right now, it is not fully activated. So what we are doing is we have this out now to half a dozen stores or so that are finalizing the testing process. It will be available in the coming weeks. You'll be notified via email and probably on that splash screen on Paladin as well. Can you search by serial number? Absolutely, you can search by serial number. You can search by serial number either in the reports of those items or on an invoice. You can go to the transaction report and search for a specific serial number, and it will call up that transaction from there. I'm reading. So yes, so if it's a sold item, you would just go to the transaction report. There's an area there where you can say, it doesn't say enter serial number, it says enter note information, and you just add the serial number there, and it will recall that specific that specific invoice. Charles, can you let me know as well when you find out regards to the kit functionality? Yes, I will. Just let me know who you are, because I don't see a name here. When using MultiStore, does each store have to have a box checked? It will. If you're adding that item, I've run this. I believe it does require that the other stores be checked. And I think it does that automatically when you add the item. Okay, Candace, got it. Are you pursuing being able to utilize this feature for firearms? It's totally usable for firearms if you want to use it for that. It doesn't have the, we can't produce the what is it, the ATF book. That would be through your ATF system. But if you wanted to sell the serialized item, you can absolutely put that part number in here, and it will maintain who it was sold to, what the item was, and all that's going to be good. So here it says, have the serial number on no part number. Can I pull up the part number by serial number when you go to sell it? No. The serial number is not something that you recall. You'd be recalling it up through either a part number or a UPC code or an alternate part number as well. If you wanted to put that information in there, you could, but it would be like crazy, because if you have 100 different serial numbers, you're going to have 100 different alt part numbers for that item. It's not very practical, but it is possible if you want to do it. All right. Well, this has been a very lot of interest on this subject. I'm really excited to get this feature out to everybody. Like I said, in the coming weeks, you'll get more information about it. This is more of a whet your appetite, but again, we're right on the cusp here of releasing this product and this feature because, like I said, we've got it running in half a dozen stores. They've been having tremendous success with it, and we're very excited about it. All right, so I'm going to do a quick plug for our next webinar, which is going to be on February 4th. So on February 4th, you're going to learn a lot about how you can be more productive at your buying markets, and you can do that by using some of the Paladin mobile technology. So that's what you're going to learn about. That's Tuesday, February 4th. Just make sure. I believe that's what it is, and we'll see you then. It's been wonderful. You guys have been great. Appreciate the opportunity to meet with you, and it's been 28 minutes, so a little bit over, but we had lots of questions. So yeah, track your inventory with our, going to look for the next week. So making the most of your supplier market. So that is Tuesday, February 4th at 9 a.m. All right, look forward to it. Guys, thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it. And if you want to see this, if you missed part of this because you had to help customers, I understand, that's great. But you'll need to rewatch it, and you can do that at the webinars section of our portal website, portal.paladinpos.com. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great day. Take care.